Commander Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of Haven Point Station, drinking his morning coffee. The space station orbited a giant gas planet in the Kepler system. It was a quiet morning, just like most mornings out here in deep space. Jake liked the peace. After 20 years in the military, he enjoyed the calm life of running a research station. "Commander, we have something big on the sensors," called out Lieutenant Alex Turner from his security station. Alex was young but sharp. He had good eyes for spotting trouble. Jake set down his coffee and walked over to look at the display. What he saw made him whistle low. A massive ship was heading their way. It was at least 3 times bigger than Haven Point Station. The design was nothing like human ships. It had sharp edges and looked like it was built for war. "That's not one of ours," Jake said. "Get Dr. Park up here. We might need her." Dr. Lisa Park was the station's expert on alien life. She had been hoping for years to make first contact with another species. When she got the call, she ran to the bridge faster than she had ever run before. "Is it really aliens?" she asked, out of breath. "Look for yourself," Jake said, pointing to the screen. Lisa stared at the alien ship with wide eyes. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "and terrifying." The ship was getting closer. Its hull was dark gray with red markings. Weapons were clearly visible on its surface. This was not a science ship or a trader. This was a warship. "They're sending a message," Alex said. "Audio only." "Put it through," Jake ordered. A deep, growling voice filled the bridge. The words were translated by the station's computer, but the tone was clear. This voice belonged to someone who was used to giving orders and having them obeyed. "Small station. This is War Commander Zexthul of the Kethvar Empire. You will prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in destruction. Submit now and your deaths will be quick." Jake looked at Lisa and Alex. Both of them looked worried but not panicked. Jake had trained them well. "Well," Jake said calmly. "That was friendly." He pressed the communication button. "War Commander Zexthul, this is Commander Jake Morrison of Haven Point Station. Welcome to human space. Would you like to dock at our main bay? We can offer you coffee and a tour of our facilities." There was a long silence from the alien ship. Jake could almost feel the confusion coming through the radio. "You offer us coffee?" the alien voice finally asked. "Sure," Jake said. "It's good coffee. We also have tea if you prefer, and some cookies that our engineer Matt made yesterday. They're pretty good." Another long silence. Lisa was trying not to laugh. Alex was checking his weapons, but he looked more curious than scared. "Do you not understand our words, human? We are here to conquer your station. You should be afraid." Jake scratched his head. "Why would we be afraid? You came all this way. You must be tired. The least we can do is offer you something to drink." Down in the engine room, Matt Collins heard the announcement about alien visitors. He wiped his hands on his work clothes and grinned. Finally, something interesting was happening on the station. He had been fixing the same broken systems for months. Aliens were definitely more exciting than broken air filters. Back on the bridge, the alien commander was still talking. "Your species confuses us humans. We have conquered 17 worlds. All surrendered immediately or fought with desperation. You offer us cookies?" "Matt makes really good cookies," Jake said seriously. "Chocolate chip. Sometimes he adds nuts." Lisa stepped forward. "War Commander, I'm Dr. Lisa Park. I study alien life. I've been hoping to meet your people for years. What does your species eat? Do you have food preferences? Are there any chemicals that might be dangerous to you?" There was another pause. When the alien spoke again, he sounded even more confused. "You study us? You wish to learn about us?" "Of course," Lisa said. "You're the first aliens we've met. This is amazing. Do you have scientists on your ship? I'd love to compare notes." Alex looked at his screens. "Commander, they're moving closer, but their weapons aren't charging. They seem confused." Jake nodded. "War Commander, you're welcome to send a team over. Our docking bay can handle ships up to frigate size. Will that work for your shuttle?" Yes, that will work," the alien replied. He sounded like he was not sure what was happening anymore. "Great," Jake said. We'll have the coffee ready. How many are coming over? 5 warriors will board your station. Perfect. Lisa, go get the good cups, the ones without chips. Alex, make sure the docking bay is clean. We want to make a good first impression. Lisa hurried off to prepare for their guests. She was so excited she could barely contain herself. Real aliens were coming to the station. Alex checked the security systems but left all weapons powered down. These aliens said they were warriors, but Jake was treating them like guests. Alex trusted Jake's judgment. Matt came up from the engine room carrying a plate of fresh cookies. I heard we're having alien visitors, he said. Thought they might want to try these. Good thinking, Matt, Jake said. How are the station systems? All green, Commander. Though the coffee maker in the main break room is acting up again, I can fix it before they arrive. Do that. We want everything perfect for first contact. On the alien ship, War Commander Zexthul stared at his crew. His warriors looked as confused as he felt. In over 30 years of conquest, nothing like this had ever happened. War Commander, said his second-in-command. Sub-Commander Craldon, perhaps this is a trick. Maybe they are trying to lower our guard. Zexthul considered this. Perhaps. But they seemed genuinely welcoming. Prepare a boarding party. 5 warriors. Full armor, but do not draw weapons unless attacked. Should we expect treachery? Zexthul looked at the peaceful space station on his screen. The humans had not powered up any weapons. They had not called for help. They had offered cookies. I do not know what to expect, he admitted. These humans are unlike any species we have encountered. The Kethavar shuttle launched from the warship. As it approached Haven Point Station, the 5 alien warriors inside prepared for anything except what they were about to find. Jake watched the shuttle approach on his screen. Here they come, he said. Remember, everyone be friendly. This is historic. The first meeting between humans and the Kethavar Empire was about to begin. Neither side knew that this day would change both of their species forever. The airlock hissed open and 5 alien warriors stepped onto Haven Point Station. They were huge. Each one stood over 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin that looked like natural armor. Sharp claws extended from their hands, and their yellow eyes scanned everything like predators looking for threats. Jake Morrison stood waiting for them with a smile and a cup of coffee in his hand. Behind him, Lisa Park held a tablet with translation software. Matt Collins carried his plate of cookies, and Alex Turner stood ready but relaxed. War Commander Zexthul was the first alien through the airlock. He wore dark metal armor over his already tough skin. Weapons hung from his belt, but he had not drawn them. His yellow eyes fixed on Jake. I am War Commander Zexthul, he said in his deep, growling voice. These are my warriors. Welcome aboard, Jake said, stepping forward without fear. I'm Commander Jake Morrison. This is my crew. He gestured to each person as he introduced them. Zexthul stared at the small human in front of him. Jake barely reached the alien's chest, yet he showed no fear. This was not normal. When the Kethavar boarded enemy ships, there was usually screaming and running. You are not afraid, Zexthul said. It was not a question. Jake shrugged. Why would I be afraid? You came in peace, right? You haven't shot at us or tried to blow up the station. We told you we came to conquer you. Yeah, but you didn't actually do anything hostile. Actions speak louder than words. Jake held out his cup. Coffee? It's fresh. Zexthul looked at the cup like it might explode. Sub-Commander Craldon, his second-in-command, stepped closer to his leader. The other 3 warriors spread out but kept their weapons holstered. Lisa Park stepped forward, her eyes bright with excitement. War Commander, I'm Dr. Park. I'm a scientist. Can you tell me about your biology? Do you drink liquids? What kind of foods do your people eat? The alien commander looked down at the tiny human female. She was asking questions like a child meeting a new friend, not like someone facing possible death. We consume nutrients, Zexthul said slowly. Liquid intake is required for survival. Wonderful, Lisa said. So you can try coffee. It's a mild stimulant. Very popular among humans. It might taste different to you because of different taste receptors, but it shouldn't hurt you. Matt Collins held out his plate. Cookie? They're chocolate chip. I made them yesterday. One of the warriors behind Zexthal made a sound that might have been confusion or fear. These humans were offering food and drink to armed invaders like they were welcoming friends. Perhaps we should tour your station, Zexthal said carefully, so we may understand your capabilities. Great idea, Jake said. We'll start with the main areas and work our way around. Fair warning, though, some of our equipment might seem strange to you. They walked through the station corridors. The aliens had to duck through doorways built for humans. Jake pointed out different sections and explained what they did. The Kethvar warriors listened, but understood little. This is our main work area, Jake said, leading them into a large room filled with computers and screens. We do research here. As he spoke, Jake pulled 3 small balls from his pocket. Without looking, he tossed them into the air and began juggling them. His hands moved in a smooth pattern, catching and throwing the balls while he continued talking about the station's research projects. The 5 aliens stopped walking. They stared at Jake's hands with growing alarm. The human was manipulating 3 objects in a complex pattern while talking about something completely different. This showed incredible hand-eye coordination and reflexes. Sub-Commander Kraldon whispered to his commander in their own language. War Commander, look at his hands. Those reflexes are faster than ours. Zexthal nodded slightly. He had noticed, too. Humans might look small and weak, but this one was displaying the kind of reflexes that took Kethvar warriors years to develop. Jake finished juggling and put the balls back in his pocket. Sorry, nervous habit. I juggle when I'm talking. Helps me think. He thought it was a nervous habit. The aliens thought it was a display of superior combat reflexes. Lisa led them to the next section. This is our recreational area, she said proudly, where we go to relax and have fun. She opened the door to a large room filled with strange equipment. There were climbing walls, exercise machines, and what looked like obstacle courses. In the center was a large empty space with projectors around the edges. This is our holographic recreation chamber, Lisa explained. We can program it to simulate any environment we want. Beach scenes, forests, mountains, even dangerous places for training. She walked to a control panel and pressed some buttons. Suddenly, the empty space filled with a realistic image of an active volcano. Lava flowed down rocky slopes while smoke and ash filled the air. This is Mount Vesuvius on Earth, Lisa said casually. We use this program for fun. You try to cross the lava field without getting caught by the flows. The aliens stared in horror. The human female was describing voluntary exposure to deadly lava as entertainment. For fun? Zexthal asked slowly. Oh yes, Lisa said. It's challenging but not really dangerous since it's just holograms. The real adventure sports on Earth are much more exciting. Matt Collins nodded enthusiastically. My favorite is the asteroid field program. You pilot a small ship through moving space rocks. It's great for training reflexes. Training for what? Kraldon asked. For fun, Matt said, like it was obvious. Alex, Turner joined the conversation. These are pretty mild compared to what we do on Earth. This is just basic stuff to stay in shape while we're stuck on a space station. Basic stuff? Zexthal repeated. Sure, Alex said. Back home, people do real mountain climbing, deep sea diving, skydiving, racing vehicles at high speed. You know, normal recreational activities. The 5 Kethvar warriors exchanged looks. Their species had conquered 17 worlds through superior military training and natural fighting ability. But these humans were describing voluntary participation in deadly activities as normal entertainment. Dr. Amy Rodriguez chose that moment to arrive. She was the station's psychologist, brought in specifically for first contact situations. She had been watching the meeting through security cameras. Hello, she said to the aliens. I'm Dr. Rodriguez. I study how different minds work. I'm very interested in learning about your culture and psychology. Zexthal looked down at yet another small human female who showed no fear of armed warriors. You study minds? Yes. For Example: I can see that you're confused by our behavior. Your body language suggests you expected us to react differently to your arrival. The alien commander was impressed despite himself. This human could read Kethvar body language without a training. We expected fear, he admitted, or desperate aggression. Your species responds with curiosity and hospitality. Amy nodded. That's normal for humans meeting new people. We're social creatures. We like to learn about others and make friends, even when facing potential enemies. Especially then, Amy said. The best way to stop being enemies is to become friends. Jake finished showing them the recreation area and started walking toward the next section. Wait until you see our workshop, he called over his shoulder. Matt's been building some really cool stuff in there. As they followed the human commander deeper into the station, Zexthul began to realize that his warriors might have found something they were not prepared for. These humans were not behaving like any species the Kethvar had ever encountered. They were not afraid, not aggressive, not trying to bargain or surrender. They were treating armed alien invaders like interesting visitors, and they kept mentioning activities that sounded more dangerous than Kethvar military training. Sub-Commander Kraldon moved closer to his commander. War Commander, he whispered, I am beginning to think we may have made an error in coming here. Zexthul nodded slowly. He was beginning to think the same thing. The sound of a ship approaching echoed through Haven Point Station. Jake Morrison looked at his communication panel and smiled. That's the supply ship from Earth. They're 3 days early. War Commander Zexthul and his warriors had been on the station for 6 hours now. They were still trying to understand human behavior. Every time they thought they had figured something out, the humans did something that confused them more. Supply ship? Zexthul asked. More warriors? No, just supplies and maybe some passengers, Jake said. Let me check who's aboard. The supply ship docked smoothly. Captain Ben Hayes stepped off first, followed by his small crew. Behind them came a woman carrying several large bags of equipment. Jake, Ben called out. Good to see you. We brought your supplies and picked up a passenger. This is Maria Santos. She was heading to the mining colony on Kepler 7, but we had some engine trouble. She'll be with you for a few days while we make repairs. Maria Santos was not a large woman, but she moved with the confident grace of an athlete. Her dark hair was tied back and her brown eyes sparkled with energy. She looked around the station with interest. Thanks for letting me stay, Maria said to Jake. I hope I won't be any trouble. No trouble at all, Jake replied. What do you do for work? Professional extreme sports, Maria said casually. Mostly mountain climbing and base jumping, but I do some racing too. I was heading to Kepler 7 to try climbing in low gravity. The 5 Kethvar warriors had been listening to this conversation. When they heard extreme sports, they moved closer. Sub-Commander Kraldon whispered to his commander, What are extreme sports? Zexthul did not know either, but something told him he was about to find out. Tony Kim, the station's recreational coordinator, heard about their guest and came running. Maria Santos? The Maria Santos? You won the Earth Extreme Championship. 3 times, Maria laughed. Guilty as charged. Oh man, Tony said, his excitement growing. We have to set something up. The crew has been bored for months. Can you give us a demonstration? I'd love to, Maria said. What kind of space do you have? The main cargo bay is empty right now, Tony said, and we have full gravity control. Jake looked at the confused aliens. Maria, we have some guests from another species. They're learning about human culture. Would you mind if they watched? Sure, Maria said. The more the merrier. An hour later, the main cargo bay had been transformed. Tony and Matt Collins had worked together to set up what they called an obstacle course. Platforms hung at different heights throughout the bay. Some were solid, others moved back and forth or spun slowly. Laser projectors created beams of light that would trigger alarms if touched. This is just a basic course, Tony explained to the watching aliens. Nothing too dangerous since we're on a space station. Zexthul looked at the arrangement with growing horror. The platforms were suspended over empty space. The gaps between them were too far for a Kethvar to jump safely. The spinning elements would be impossible to land on for anyone without perfect timing and balance. You consider this not dangerous? He asked. Well, it's not like real mountain climbing, Maria said, stretching her muscles. No weather, no altitude, artificial gravity. Pretty safe, really. She walked to the starting platform. The course stretched across the entire cargo bay, 3 levels high. To complete it, she would have to jump between moving platforms, crawl under spinning barriers, and swing from hanging ropes across gaps that could kill her if she fell. Ready? Tony called out. Let's do this, Maria replied. She jumped. The HFY warriors watched in stunned silence as the human woman flew through the air. She landed on the first moving platform just as it reached the perfect position. Without pausing, she leaped to the next platform, which was spinning slowly. She rolled with the spin and used the momentum to jump to a rope hanging in the middle of the bay. She swung across a gap that was 20 feet wide, let go at exactly the right moment, and landed in a crouch on a narrow beam. Nice form, called out Alex Turner, who had come to watch. But can you do it faster? Is that a challenge? Maria called back, balancing perfectly on the beam. If you're up for it. Maria grinned and began moving faster. She jumped between platforms that seemed impossible to reach. She rolled under barriers that should have knocked her down. She swung from rope to rope like gravity was just a suggestion. The watching humans cheered and shouted encouragement. They were treating this display of impossible physical ability as entertainment. Ben Hayes checked his watch. 4 minutes? 30 seconds. That's got to be a station record. The station record is 4 minutes, 15 seconds, Tony said. I set it last month. You did this too? Zexthul asked in disbelief. Sure, Tony said. Most of the crew has tried it. It's fun. Maria finished the course and dropped to the cargo bay floor. She was breathing hard but smiling. That was great. The artificial gravity makes it interesting. You can do moves that would be impossible on a planet. Matt Collins was already adjusting. The course. Want to try the advanced version? I can add some moving obstacles and change the gravity in different sections. Oh, that sounds amazing, Maria said. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had been watching the aliens during Maria's run. Their body language was easy to read. They were terrified. War Commander, she said quietly. Are you all right? You seem upset. Zexthul looked down at the small human psychologist. Your people treat mortal danger as recreation. Mortal danger? Amy asked, genuinely confused. It's just an obstacle course. Sure, you might get bruised if you fall, but the safety systems would catch you. Safety systems? Tony heard the question and walked over. Oh yeah, we have force field generators under all the platforms. If someone falls, they get caught by an energy net. Nobody gets hurt. This did not make the aliens feel better. The fact that humans needed safety systems to prevent their recreation from being fatal was not reassuring. On Earth, Maria said, toweling off sweat, we don't usually have safety systems. That's what makes it exciting. Jake noticed that the aliens looked like they were about to run away. Hey, Maria, maybe don't mention the really dangerous stuff. Yet. Our guests are still getting used to human culture. Really dangerous stuff? Kraldon whispered to his commander. Maria laughed. This is kid stuff compared to real extreme sports. Wait until I tell you about free solo climbing or wingsuit flying. Dr. Lisa Park joined the group, carrying her tablet full of notes. This is fascinating, she said to the aliens. What do your people do for recreation? The 5 HFY warriors looked at each other. Their idea of recreation was practicing combat forms or competing in strength contests. Nothing they did for fun involved risking their lives. We train, Zexthul said slowly. Train for what? Maria asked. For war. Oh, like military exercises, Maria said, nodding. Humans do that too, but we also do fun stuff. Sports, games, adventures. Adventures? Yeah, you know. Exploring dangerous places, trying new things, pushing your limits to see what you can. Ben Hayes was checking the ship's repair schedule on his tablet. Speaking of pushing limits, Maria, you still planning to try climbing those crystal formations on Kepler 7? Absolutely, Maria said, her eyes lighting up. The geology reports show they're completely vertical for over 1,000 meters. No one's ever climbed them before. Sounds dangerous, Ben said. That's what makes it fun. War Commander Zexthul felt something he had never experienced before in his 30 years of conquest. He was beginning to understand that his warriors had encountered something far more dangerous than enemy soldiers or hostile worlds. They had found a species that was so naturally fearless, they had to invent increasingly dangerous activities just to feel excitement. The thought of what these humans might be like in actual combat made his warriors' blood run cold. Sub-Commander Kraldon leaned close to his commander's ear. War Commander, perhaps we should return to our ship and reconsider our approach. For the first time in his military career, Zexthul was beginning to think that retreat might be the wisest option. The dining hall of Haven Point Station had never hosted such an unusual dinner party. Humans and aliens sat around tables that had been pushed together to accommodate the large Kethvar warriors. The aliens had to use specially made chairs that could support their weight and size. Jake Morrison was telling a story about his last vacation on Earth. So there I was on my motorcycle, going about 90 miles per hour down this mountain road. The curves were so sharp you couldn't see what was coming next. War Commander Zexthul stopped eating. You travel at high speed on a two-wheeled vehicle? Sure, Jake said, cutting his steak. It's called motorcycle racing. Great way to spend a weekend. The adrenaline rush is amazing. Adrenaline rush? Sub-Commander Kraldon asked. Dr. Amy Rodriguez explained. It's a chemical our bodies make when we're in danger. It makes us feel excited and alert. Humans enjoy the feeling, so we often put ourselves in situations that trigger it. The 5 aliens exchanged worried looks. Humans deliberately sought out danger to make their bodies produce chemicals that made them feel good. This was not normal behavior for any species they knew. Lisa Park was showing pictures on her tablet to the alien sitting next to her. These are from my rock climbing trip last year. This cliff face is about 2,000 feet high. The images showed Lisa hanging from a sheer rock wall with nothing but empty space below her. She was attached to the rock by a thin rope and small metal pieces hammered into cracks in the stone. You climb vertical stone faces for pleasure? The alien asked, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. It's the best feeling in the world, Lisa said happily. When you're hanging there, just you and the rock, knowing that every move has to be perfect. It's like meditation, but with the possibility of death. Matt Collins laughed. That's nothing compared to what my brother does. He jumps out of airplanes. Your aircraft are damaged? Zexthul asked. No, Matt explained. The planes work. Fine, he jumps out on purpose with a parachute. It's called skydiving. He leaps from a flying vehicle voluntarily. Thousands of people do it every weekend on Earth. It's a popular sport. Captain Ben Hayes was scrolling through pictures on his phone. Here's my brother at his skydiving club, he said, showing the screen to the aliens. He's the one doing the spinning dive. The image showed a human falling through the air in a spread eagle position, clearly enjoying himself despite being thousands of feet above the ground with only a piece of fabric to save his life. Maria Santos had been quiet during most of the meal, but now she spoke up. Skydiving is fun, but I prefer base jumping. What is base jumping? Zexthul asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. Like skydiving, but you jump off cliffs and buildings instead of planes. The falls are shorter, so you have less time to deploy your parachute. It's more challenging. Tony Kim was excited to share his own stories. My girlfriend does something called bungee jumping. You tie a long elastic rope to your ankles and jump off bridges. You jump off bridges? Kraldon asked weakly. The rope catches you before you hit the ground. Usually. Usually? Well, sometimes the rope breaks, Tony admitted. But that's pretty rare. Maybe 1 in 10,000 jumps. The aliens were beginning to understand that human recreational activities had failure rates that would be considered unacceptable in Kethvar military operations. Dr. Rodriguez decided to show some videos from Earth. She connected her tablet to the dining hall's main screen. These are some popular human sports and activities. The first video showed humans riding huge ocean waves on small boards. The waves were 30 feet high and crashed with tremendous force. The humans rode them, like they were dancing with the sea. This is surfing, Amy explained. Very popular in coastal areas. The next video showed humans skiing down steep mountain slopes at incredible speeds. They flew off jumps and spun through the air before landing and continuing down the mountain. This is extreme skiing. The skiers can reach speeds of over 80 miles per hour. Then came a video that made all 5 aliens stand up from their chairs in alarm. Humans wearing wing-like suits were jumping off mountain peaks and flying through the air just feet away from rock faces and trees. This is wingsuit flying, Amy said calmly. Participants wear special suits that let them glide through the air. The goal is to fly as close as possible to the terrain without actually touching it. How many survive this activity? Zexthol asked, his voice shaking slightly. Most of them, Amy said, though it does have one of the higher fatality rates among human recreational activities. And people still do it? The danger is part of the appeal. The closer you come to death, the more alive you feel. Lisa was showing more pictures from her tablet. Here's whitewater rafting. You ride a small boat down rivers with dangerous rapids. The images showed humans in a rubber boat being tossed around by violent water that crashed over rocks and created massive waves. The boat looks fragile, observed one of the alien warriors. It is, Lisa said cheerfully. That's why you wear safety gear. Sometimes the boat flips over and you have to swim through the rapids. Jake finished his meal and leaned back in his chair. You know what I miss most about Earth? The racing circuit. Nothing like driving a car at 200 miles per hour around a track with other drivers doing the same thing. You race vehicles at high speed in close proximity to other vehicles? Zexthul asked. Sure. The closer you get, the more exciting it is. Sometimes you're just inches apart at 200 miles per hour. Ben Hayes pulled up a racing video on his phone. Here's the last race Jake was in before he got assigned to the station. The video showed dozens of vehicles moving at incredible speeds around a track. They were so close together that the slightest mistake would cause massive accidents. The humans watching were cheering and screaming with excitement. Crashes happen pretty regularly, Jake noted. That's part of the sport. The drivers walk away most of the time. Most of the time? Well, racing is dangerous, but that's what makes it fun. Matt Collins was getting excited talking about Earth activities. Oh, and there's ice climbing. You climb up frozen waterfalls using special tools. If the ice breaks while you're climbing, you fall. Mountain biking down volcano slopes, added Tony. Deep sea diving with sharks, said Lisa. Cave exploration in underwater systems, mentioned Ben. The aliens listened to story after story of humans deliberately putting themselves in mortal danger for entertainment. Each activity sounded more impossible and terrifying than the last. Finally, Maria Santos spoke up. You know, all of this stuff we're talking about is pretty tame compared to some of the really extreme sports. The dining hall went quiet. Even the humans looked at Maria with interest. Really extreme? Jake asked. Sure. Free solo climbing. No ropes. No safety gear. Just you and a 1,000-foot cliff face. One mistake, and you die. People do this? Zexthul whispered. Not many, Maria admitted. It takes a special kind of person, but yeah, some people climb massive cliff faces with nothing but their hands and feet. She showed them a picture of a human hanging from a sheer rock wall, hundreds of feet in the air with no visible safety equipment. War Commander Zexthul stared at the image for a long time. Finally, he looked up at the humans around the table. Your species seeks out mortal danger as a form of entertainment. Pretty much, Jake said. Life's more interesting when there's some risk involved. And you do this even when you don't have to? When you're not fighting for territory or resources or survival? Especially then, Maria said. Anyone can be brave when they have to be. It takes something special to choose to face danger when you could stay safe. Sub-Commander Kraldon leaned over to his commander and whispered in their own language, War Commander, what kind of warriors would these humans make if they treat activities more dangerous than our military training as recreational hobbies? Zexthul did not answer. He was beginning to understand that the Kethvar Empire had encountered something far beyond their experience. A species so naturally fearless that they had to invent increasingly deadly games to entertain themselves. For the first Time in his life, the veteran warrior was afraid. The alert signal echoed through Haven Point Station just as the dinner party was ending. Jake Morrison checked his communication device and frowned. "What is it?" Dr. Lisa Park asked. "Military escort arriving," Jake said. "Captain Lisa Chen and her Marines. They're here for the first contact security evaluation." War Commander Zexthul and his warriors tensed. More humans were coming, and these were described as military. "Military?" Zexthul asked. "Just a standard procedure," Jake explained. "When we make first contact with a new species, Earth Command sends a military team to assess the situation. Nothing hostile, just protocol." The alien commander was not convinced. In his experience, military units were sent for one reason: to fight. 20 minutes later, Captain Lisa Chen docked her ship at Haven Point Secondary Bay. She was a compact woman with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind her came 6 Marines in combat gear. "Commander Morrison," she said briskly as she came aboard. "Status report on first contact situation." "All peaceful, Captain Chen," Jake replied. "Our guests have been very cooperative. No hostile actions on either side." Captain Chen looked at the 5 massive alien warriors standing in the docking bay. They were impressive specimens, clearly built for combat, but they seemed nervous rather than aggressive. "I'm Captain Lisa Chen, Earth Military," she said to Zexthul. "I'm here to make sure everything goes smoothly." "We seek no conflict with your species," Zexthul replied carefully. "Good to hear. Mind if my team runs some standard training exercises while we're here? We've been in space for 2 weeks. The Marines need to stay sharp." Before Jake could answer, Sergeant Mike Johnson stepped forward. He was a big man, built like a tank with scars on his arms from various training accidents. "Captain, the station has a nice big cargo bay. Perfect for zero-G combat drills." "Zero-G combat?" Sub-Commander Kraldon asked quietly. "Fighting in zero gravity," Sergeant Johnson explained. "Space battles happen in all directions. You have to train for 3-dimensional warfare." The Marines began setting up their equipment in the main cargo bay. The HFY warriors followed, curious despite their growing fear of human activities. What they saw being assembled looked like the obstacle course from earlier, but more complex and somehow more threatening. The Marines attached small thrusters to their combat gear and checked their weapons. "These are training weapons," Captain Chen explained to the watching aliens. "They fire harmless energy pulses, but the computer tracks hits and calculates damage." Jake and his crew gathered to watch. Tony Kim was especially excited. "I love watching Marine training. These guys are amazing." The Marines entered the cargo bay and activated the zero-gravity field. Immediately they began floating, but their movements were controlled and purposeful. "Begin exercise," Captain Chen announced. What happened next made the HFY warriors step back in shock. The Marines exploded into motion. Using their small thrusters, they launched themselves through the 3-dimensional obstacle course like they were flying. They flipped, spun, and changed direction in ways that seemed impossible. Sergeant Johnson fired his weapon while spinning upside down and moving backward through a narrow gap between obstacles. The energy bolt hit his target perfectly. Another Marine used a wall to push off and sent herself flying across the entire cargo bay. She rolled in midair and came up firing at multiple targets while still moving at high speed. "Nice shot, Rodriguez," Sergeant Johnson called out. The Marines were laughing and calling out encouragement to each other while performing maneuvers that looked like advanced aerial combat. They moved through the zero-gravity environment like they had been born in space. "How long did it take them to learn this?" Dr. Amy Rodriguez asked Captain Chen. "Basic zero-G training is 6 months. Advanced combat training is another year. These Marines have been doing it for 5 years. They make it look easy," Lisa Park observed. "That's the point," Captain Chen said. "In real combat, you don't have time to think about which direction is up." One of the Marines, Corporal Kate Wilson, was demonstrating what she called ricochet tactics. She fired her weapon at a metal panel, and the energy bolt bounced off at an angle to hit a target that was behind cover. "You can use any surface to redirect your shots," she explained to the watching crew. "Walls, ceilings, even other Marines if they're wearing reflective gear." The HFY warriors watched in growing horror as the humans treated complex 3-dimensional combat like a game. The Marines were clearly enjoying themselves, laughing and competing to see who could make the most difficult shots. "Your turn, Sarge," called out Marine Davis. Sergeant Johnson grinned and launched himself toward the ceiling. He bounced off it, spun twice, fired at 3 different targets while upside down, and landed on a small platform barely big enough for his boots. The other Marines cheered. The station crew applauded. "Show off," Captain Chen said, but she was smiling. "Ma'am?" "Yes, ma'am," Sergeant Johnson replied with a salute that he performed while still balancing on the tiny platform. Jake Morrison was impressed. "I've seen Marine training before, but never in zero-G. That's incredible." "Wait until you see what they do with the advanced course," Captain Chen said. "Sergeant, set up the moving obstacles." "With pleasure, ma'am." The Marines activated another set of controls, and the cargo bay transformed again. Now the obstacles were moving, rotating, and changing positions constantly. What had been difficult before was now nearly impossible. The Marines adapted instantly. They used the moving obstacles to their advantage, timing their movements to catch rides on rotating platforms and using the changing geometry to create new angles of attack. Maria Santos was watching with professional interest. "This is like extreme parkour in 3 dimensions." "What's parkour?" asked one of the aliens. "It's a sport where you move through complex urban environments using only your body," Maria explained. "Jumping between buildings, climbing walls, swinging from structures. The goal is to get from point A to point B using the most efficient and stylish path possible." She pulled out her phone and showed them a video of humans leaping between rooftops, vaulting over obstacles and scaling walls like they were part of the architecture. "Humans do this in cities?" Zexthul asked weakly. "All the time. It's very popular with young people." Back in the cargo bay, the Marines had divided into 2 teams and were playing what they called Capture the Flag. Each team had to retrieve an object from the opposing team's base while defending their own. The result was a complex 3-dimensional battle with Marines flying through the air, bouncing off walls, and executing maneuvers that looked more like aerial ballet than combat training. "This is just basic stuff," Sergeant Johnson said during a break. "You should see what the Special Forces do. They train in environments that would kill regular Marines." "More dangerous than this?" Sub-Commander Kraldon asked. "Oh, much more. Live ammunition, real explosives, actual hazardous environments. This is just safe training." The word safe made the aliens look at each other in disbelief. What they were watching looked like the most advanced combat training they had ever seen, and the humans called it safe. Captain Chen noticed the aliens' expressions. "Don't worry," she said. "We're not showing off to intimidate you. This is just how we train. Humans need to stay challenged or we get bored." "Bored?" Zexthul repeated. "Sure. If training is too easy, it's not fun anymore. We have to keep making it harder to stay interested." Corporal Wilson was now demonstrating something she called wall running. She used her thrusters to fly at a wall, landed feet first, and ran along it while firing at targets. When she reached a corner, she pushed off and flew to another wall, continuing to run along surfaces that should not have been able to support her. "The trick is timing your thruster burns to maintain contact with the surface," she explained. "Too much thrust and you fly away, too little and you fall." "What happens if you make a mistake?" asked one of the alien warriors. "You crash into something," Wilson said cheerfully. "It hurts, but the safety systems prevent serious injury. Usually." The word "usually" did not make the aliens feel better. After an hour of demonstration, the Marines powered down their equipment and returned to normal gravity. They were sweating and breathing hard, but they all had huge smiles on their faces. "Great workout," Sergeant Johnson said. "Thanks for letting us use your bay, Commander." "Any time," Jake replied. "That was amazing to watch." War Commander Zexthul pulled Sub-Commander Kraldon aside. In their own language, he whispered, "These humans treat advanced combat training as recreation." "Yes, War Commander, and they called this the basic version. If this is basic, what must their elite warriors be capable of?" Neither alien wanted to find out. Captain Chen approached the alien commander. "War Commander, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what kind of training do your warriors do?" Zexthul thought about Kethvar military training. Weapons practice, strength building, tactical exercises, all performed on solid ground with gravity pulling in one direction. We practice combat forms, he said slowly. Weapon techniques, physical conditioning. Sounds similar to our basic training, Captain Chen said. Do you do zero-G combat? No. Three-dimensional. Tactics? No. Ricochet shooting, wall running, moving obstacle courses? Each question was answered with a quiet no. Captain Chen nodded thoughtfully. The emergency alarm cut through the peaceful evening on Haven Point Station like a knife. Jake Morrison was instantly alert, running toward the command center before the second alarm finished sounding. Report, he called out as he reached the bridge. Meteor shower, Alex Turner said from his position at the sensors. Big one. It came out of nowhere, probably debris from a comet that broke up in the gas giant's gravity well. Jake looked at the display screen. Hundreds of small rocks were racing toward the station at incredible speed. Time to impact, 3 minutes 40 seconds. Raise shields, all crew to emergency stations. War Commander Zexthul and his warriors had been resting in their assigned quarters when the alarm sounded. They rushed to the command center, expecting to see panic and chaos. Instead, they found humans moving with calm, practiced efficiency. What is happening? Zexthul asked. Meteor shower, Jake said without taking his eyes off the display. We're about to get hit by a lot of space rocks. Not unusual out here, but this is a big one. The shields activated, creating an energy barrier around the station. But even as they watched, the first impacts began. Small meteors struck the shields and disintegrated, but there were too many of them. Shields at 60%, Alex reported. Some of the larger rocks are getting through. A shudder ran through the station as a meteor struck the outer hull. Emergency lights began flashing. Hull breach in Section 7, called out Matt Collins from his engineering station. Atmosphere loss detected. Jake was completely calm. Lisa, take a team to Section 7. Emergency patches and portable barriers. Matt, reroute power from non-essential systems to shields. Alex, track the biggest rocks and use point defense to break them up. The humans began moving immediately. There was no panic, no shouting, no confusion. Everyone knew exactly what to. Dr. Lisa Park grabbed an emergency kit and headed for the damaged section. Maria, Tony, come with me. We'll need extra hands. The Kethvar warriors watched in amazement as the humans responded to the crisis. This was not the behavior of a peaceful research station. This was the reaction of a trained military unit. Another impact shook the station. This time, the lights went out completely before emergency power kicked in. That was a big one, Matt said. Main power conduit is damaged. I need to get to the primary junction, but it's in Section 9. That area just lost atmosphere. Vacuum suit, Jake suggested. No time. The power conduit will fail completely in 10 minutes. If that happens, we lose life support for the whole station. Matt Collins grabbed a portable breathing device and headed for Section 9. The Kethvar warriors followed, unable to believe what they were seeing. Section 9 was a disaster. The meteor had torn a hole in the outer wall, and all the air had been sucked out into space. Debris floated everywhere in the zero gravity of the damaged section. Matt put on his breathing mask and pushed off from the doorway, flying across the airless room toward a control panel on the far wall. He moved through the floating debris like he was playing a game, dodging twisted metal and broken equipment with casual grace. Zexthul stared. He's moving through a disaster zone like it's a recreational activity. That's because it kind of is, said Captain Chen, who had arrived to help with the emergency. Humans train for this kind of thing all the time. Emergency response, disaster recovery, survival situations. We practice until it becomes automatic, Matty. Reached the control panel and began working on the power conduit. He was hanging upside down in zero gravity, working with tools in one hand while holding onto a support beam with the other. His movements were precise and confident. Meanwhile, Lisa Park and her team had reached Section 7. The hull breach was smaller but still dangerous. Maria Santos was crawling through a maintenance shaft that was barely big enough for her body, carrying emergency patch equipment. I can see the hole, Maria called out. It's about 3 feet across. I can patch it from the inside, but I'll have to hang outside the hull for a few seconds. Outside the hull? Sub-Commander Kraldon whispered. In space? She'll be fine, Lisa said calmly. We have safety lines. Maria crawled out of the maintenance shaft and positioned herself next to the hull breach. Space was visible through the hole, stars and the gas giant rotating slowly in the distance. She attached a safety line to her belt and then, without hesitation, stuck her head and shoulders through the hole to apply the patch from the outside. The Kethvar warriors were horrified. The human female was voluntarily exposing herself to the vacuum of space to fix their ship. Is she insane? One of them asked. No, Tony Kim replied. She's just good at her job. Maria's done more dangerous things on vacation. The patch held, and Maria crawled back inside. That should do it, she said, brushing debris off her clothes like nothing had happened. In Section 9, Matt had finished his repairs. The main power came back online and the station systems returned to normal. He flew back across the debris-filled room with a satisfied expression. Nice work, Matt, Jake said over the communication system. How long for full repairs? Give me 2 hours and I'll have everything back to 100%, Matt replied. The meteor shower was ending. The last few rocks bounced harmlessly off the restored shields. In less than an hour, the humans had dealt with a crisis that could have destroyed the station. But what impressed the Kethvar warriors most was not the technical skill or the quick thinking. It was the fact that throughout the entire emergency, the humans had helped each other without question or hesitation. When Maria needed someone to hold tools while she worked in the maintenance shaft, Tony had volunteered immediately. When Matt needed someone to guide him through the floating debris, Alex had talked him through it step by step. When Lisa needed extra hands to carry equipment, everyone had pitched in. Your people work together very well in dangerous situations, Zexthul observed. That's how we survive, Jake said simply. Humans are social creatures, we take care of each other. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had been watching the aliens during the emergency. War Commander, you look surprised. We expected your people to panic when faced with mortal danger. Panic? Amy laughed. This wasn't mortal danger, this was just a maintenance problem that needed fixing quickly. Your station was breached. You lost atmosphere and power. People could have died. But they didn't, Amy pointed out, because we trained for this. Humans practice emergency procedures until they become routine. We turn survival skills into games and competitions so that when real emergencies happen, we're ready. Captain Chen was reviewing the damage reports on her tablet. Actually, that was pretty mild as emergencies go. I've seen colony ships deal with much worse. Much worse? Kraldon asked. Sure. Solar flares, asteroid impacts, system failures, hostile wildlife, disease outbreaks. Space is dangerous. Humans who can't handle emergencies don't last long out here. Zexthul was beginning to understand something important. Everything the humans had shown them, the recreational activities, the casual attitudes toward danger, the military training exercises, it was all preparation for exactly this kind of situation. Humans didn't seek out dangerous recreational activities because they were crazy. They did it because danger was a natural part of their lives and they needed to be ready for anything. War Commander, Sub-Commander Kraldon said quietly in their own language. I am beginning to think we have made a serious error. What kind of error? We came here to conquer these humans, but look at what they have shown us. They treat activities more dangerous than our military training as entertainment. They respond to life-threatening emergencies like routine maintenance. They work together without fear or hesitation. Zexthul nodded slowly. Continue. What kind of warriors would humans make if they had to fight for real? If their survival depended on it? The question hung in the air between them. Both warriors knew the answer and it terrified them. Jake Morrison approached the alien commander. War Commander, I want to thank you and your warriors for staying calm during the emergency. Some species panic when they see damage to a spacecraft. Your people remained composed and stayed out of the way while we worked. That was very professional. We We were observing your response procedures, Zexthul said carefully. Smart, Jake said. Every species has different methods for dealing with emergencies. I'd be interested in learning about Kethvar emergency protocol sometime. Zexthul thought about Kethvar emergency procedures. When their ships were damaged, warriors competed for the honor of making repairs. Often, this led to conflicts that made the situation worse. They had no concept of the calm, cooperative teamwork he had just witnessed. Commander Morrison, he said slowly, I wish to speak with you privately. Of course. My office? In Jake's office, War Commander Zexthul stood at attention like a soldier making an official report. Commander, I must inform you that the Kethvar Empire came to this system with the intention of conquest. Jake leaned back in his chair. I kind of figured that from your opening message about submission and quick deaths. You do not seem concerned. Should I be? Zexthul considered the question. After everything he had seen, the idea of the Kethvar Empire conquering humanity seemed ridiculous. No, he admitted. I do not believe you should be concerned. So what happens now? I wish to propose an alliance between the Kethvar,